We want to welcome with aloha Ermina, oh gosh, Ermina Van Dyken, MD. And chances are you may have worked on a few people who might be listening or watching on Facebook too, because you are a surgeon right here.
That is right. Aloha, everybody. I'm Ermina Van Dyken. I am a surgeon. I work with Kaiser, and I live on Maui.
So, like I say, you probably worked on a few people, and in your career, you've seen a number of people who are suffering from various afflictions. Otherwise, they wouldn't be coming to you, I assume, other than for maybe advice. And you're giving a lot of good advice to those of us who are getting up in years this evening at the Cameron Center. That's 7 p.m. tonight, and it's free, absolutely free, thanks to the Vegetarian Society of Hawaii. And it's all about aging and slowing it down. How can we slow down our aging process?
You know, we have a lot of speakers from the Vegetarian Society, and they always look so fabulous. But you're talking about aging, so I get to ask, how old are you guys? Because you both do look young.
Thank you. We appreciate that. So I am 39, and my husband Russell, who's with us today, he is 40.
41 this month, actually.
Really?
41 next week.
And neither of you even have a hint of the middle-age spread.
No.
And you both passed for 10 years younger. I'm here to say that, yeah.
Thanks.
Beautiful skin.
I appreciate
beautiful.
it. As a doctor, I get all the time, are you sure enough? Are you sure you're old enough to be a surgeon? Are you sure you have a medical degree?
Yeah.
Which I take as a compliment now.
So how do we slow down aging?
Oh, man.
We don't care about getting old. You have to get old, but the symptoms is what I'm concerned with.
Absolutely. So that's the $1 million question. If somebody could solve the puzzle of how to reverse aging, they would be a billionaire for sure. But what's interesting is we've got a lot of research coming out that's showing that simple lifestyle choices we can make can slow down our aging. And the thing is when we talk about aging, we talk about health span versus lifespan. So they're two very different things. Like lifespan, right, that's how long we live, how many years do we live, but health span is how much of our life are we healthy. And we're showing research right now that about 20% of our lives are lived in disability, usually at the end of our life with chronic illness, and that's no way to live.
Oh, and that's not, it doesn't seem fair after you've worked so hard your whole life, and then you want to go out and enjoy your final reward, which in some cases turns out to be your final reward. Because people, especially in my age group, I grew up with cigarette smokers and cocktail hour, and all the food that we're starting to realize is in one way or another not that beneficial.
That's so true, and I agree with your statement. It's not fair. It really is not fair. And then if you want to talk about some financial aspects as well, people are not planning to live these long lives. Every year our life expectancy goes up, but if we're living in disability and we have to pay all these medical bills, and people aren't saving or planning for that, and so that's a big gap as well that hopefully we can fix. So one thing I did want to bring up is there's a study that was published very recently showing that if you adopt 5 very simple lifestyle factors, you can lengthen your life. So a male, on average, can lengthen their life by 12 years, and a female, 14 years on average. And that's huge. Think about it. If somebody handed you some award and said, hey, you can live for 12 more years, would you take it?
A lot of people I talk to, though, they'd say, I'd rather die than give up X.
That's so true. And, it's a choice. Choice you make is yours. And you want to live a long life, that's your choice. If you want to live a shorter life but full of fun and yummy, tasty things and activities and cigarettes, that's great too. It's your life.
Jeez, the way you presented it sounds pretty good. Yummy, tasty things and cigarettes and it's like out of the movie Pinocchio when he goes to the... or Sleeper with
well, yummy tasty things
Sleeper.
aren't only junk food. I mean, that's addictive.
Right.
But You can change your taste so that you enjoy healthy foods. So I know one of the 5 things has got to be exercise because that's good for your body and your emotions
Yeah,
and everything
yeah.
else. So,
You are so right, and that's one of the most important. I
Yeah.
would say diet and exercise are
Yeah.
at the top of what you can do to live a long, healthy life. And when you talk about exercise, it's not walking. You want vigorous exercise. So vigorous exercise is defined by being short of breath. Like if you're exercising with your friend, vigorous exercise, you don't want to be able to talk. You're that short of breath. You're moving. You're really active. That's vigorous exercise.
for how long? What's the minimum of vigorous exercise?
So the one study that I was talking about, they actually showed 4 to 5 miles of running a week. And I know not everybody runs, but that's not much, right? So
I don't
it
know, how long
translates
does that
to
take?
15 minutes a day.
Okay.
That's not much. 15 minutes of vigorous activity.
If you can do a 15-minute mile, then maybe you're running fast enough you can't talk very well to your partner.
So what if I just have weights and I'm dancing to TV while I'm watching TV? Does
Yeah,
that count?
so that works, but the key is you have to get your heart rate up. You have to be breathing heavy. That's vigorous activity. You want to be working up a sweat. There's actually quite a few studies that show that an exercise called HIIT, have you heard of that? High intensity interval training, is one of the best exercises you can do. And it's a great exercise because really all you're doing is being active as much as you can, as hard as you can for like 3 to 5 minutes. Then you're done. That's one round.
You know what I like to do is look at YouTubes. Is there a YouTube I can just do it to?
I'm sure there is. I can't recommend one, but
You're not
Sure.
on YouTube because you're on
She
everything
is.
else.
She
I'm
is.
on YouTube
Out
for
of the
sure.
Doldrums is the website you can find. Just type in Out of the Doldrums.
Yeah, that's the YouTube channel. It's Out of the Doldrums.
Yeah, that's there, and you're on Facebook and Instagram and WikiTiki, and I don't even have a cell phone, so I'm part of that old age. But I was lucky because when I turned 18, I saw a movie about the slaughterhouses in France. It was an old black and white movie, really. And we had little theaters in San Francisco where you could see films, foreign films like that. And it was so shocking to me that I decided I'm going to change my diet. So I got into Zen Macrobiotics, which I still think is one of my favorite diets ever, and I'm not into it now, of course. No, I do. I love rice, and she's my worst critic. Fortunately, you can't see her on camera guffawing at me. I know.
Well, I support macrobiotics as well. I actually
Yeah.
grew up macrobiotic.
Oh, you
I
did?
had some hippie parents, so I grew up probably to about the age of 7 macrobiotic.
Yeah.
And are your parents still into it?
No. Well, my mother is very conscious of her food. My father has the attitude of, I spent so much of my life living clean, I am done. And he enjoys life, and good for him. Like I said, it's your life, your choice.
This is
he still healthy?
his reward.
He is healthy, yeah.
I think it's residual, like I did so much yoga for so many years, and I don't do it now, but I think it still affects me.
Yeah, but how's your range of motion now? I mean,
pretty good.
yeah, like
Yeah.
if you do the yoga, then you're moving your spine in all directions, and that tends to last. I mean, if you go back to yoga after a time of not doing it, you find that you can go right back into where you were in not very much time. Versus if you haven't done yoga forever or never done it, and then you try to touch your toes, well, it's going to take a long time to get there. You know,
That wasn't my experience. Because for some stupid reason, I kind of stopped cold turkey, and it's not, to me, it wasn't like riding a bike.
Oh, really?
I
Yeah.
was not. I'm not like I was before, but
Sure.
compared to regular people, I'm pretty flexible.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not when you're really doing it all the time, you're amazingly flexible.
So
Yeah.
how do you guys start your day? When you get up in the morning, I mean, do you take a hot tub, a sauna? What do you eat? Do you exercise right away? What is your regimen?
Well, I like to roll out of bed and make some coffee.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
Well, that's what I do too. Right.
And then, then I like to do some yoga, but I like to have a little bit of time in the morning. She'll get out of bed, roll out of bed, and go to the lanai and get right to the yoga. But
how long-
I like to have my time. So I roll in, she's doing her thing, and she's finishing up, and I roll in with my coffee.
So you do yoga for how long?
So we practice Ashtanga yoga, which is a set sequence of movements. Primary series is what I like to do. It takes me anywhere from 80 to 90 minutes to do the entire sequence. Of course, there's days when I'm in a hurry and I'll do parts of it, but yeah, I would say minimum of an hour.
And do you work daily at Kaiser?
I do.
So are you on a regular schedule? You have to be there at crack of dawn or something, or are you on call a lot?
It varies.
Yeah.
It varies. Of course, when I'm on call, my schedule differs, but in an ideal world, it's practice, then breakfast, then work.
So breakfast, what do you have?
We love smoothies. We love just throwing some veggies in the blender, that type of thing.
I've been on overnight oats kick.
Oats.
Overnight
I've been
oats are
drinking
wonderful.
oat milk. Have you
sure.
gotten turned on to that?
Yeah.
Of all the milks that there are, I think it's one of the best.
And less in fat, too.
Yeah, it's not going to put cream in your coffee. It's not that
Right.
rich. But if on cereal, I just feel so much better about having cereal now.
I like the rice milk that they have at Costco as well.
Yeah.
And we live on this old macadamia nut farm, so there's mac nut trees everywhere, and we've been harvesting the mac nuts and cracking them and drying them and all that.
Wow, what a
So
hassle.
I throw a few of those in some purified water and pop them in the blender, and I make a nut milk out of that. But not as good for you, though, as the rice milk or the oat milk.
Is
but
it
it's
because
just
of the
higher in
oil?
fat.
There's a lot of the oil. Is it?
I'll defer to the doctor on that one.
So the nutritional profile of macadamia nuts is that they're one of the highest fat nuts out of all of them.
But it's
So,
a good fat, though.
It is a good fat, but as in anything, you want moderation. So you don't want too much, too many macadamia nuts.
3 nuts.
Most
4.
people are trying to watch their weight.
Yeah, I love.
Yeah,
I
and
love nuts.
It's not.
Most people, experts, would recommend with nuts like size of your palm would be
That's
like
it.
a good daily
Yeah.
intake of nuts.
What if you have really big hands?
Yeah, well, it should be proportional to your body size, your ideal body size.
No, that's the size of your hand. It's like a pinch of salt. Well, what if you have big pinchers?
Right. Well, to give you an idea, I put about 5, maybe 6 nuts in the blender with about a quart of water.
Oh, really? That much water?
Yeah, quite a bit of water. And it makes it just, I mean, if you run it long enough, it's just super, super clean white color. And, I mean, it looks like milk that came out of the milk truck. But
You don't
And
have
it's
a
kind of
Vitamix?
sweet, too.
You don't
Yeah,
have
it's
a
nice.
Vitamix? That's the blender you're talking about, right?
yeah, the Vitamix is kind of my go-to.
Yeah,
I mean,
me
there's
too.
other ones out there. I think that one works the best. We've gone through a couple of them. And
You're supposed to be able to cook with the Vitamix and also make ice cream. I don't know how that works.
I don't know about the ice cream. I've never done that.
Oh,
but
no.
but if you run it long enough, you can heat it up for sure. Yeah.
If you put bananas in there, it'll get thick and
Oh,
it'll be
nice.
like ice cream.
Well,
You don't have to
bananas
do
and
anything else.
ice in a blender, and you've got
Okay.
a frappe. You've got a
Oh, yeah,
banana
sure.
frappe, one of the best things.
On the topic of ice cream, have you heard of a device called the Yo Nanas?
No.
This thing is amazing. They had it at Costco for a little while. It's like $20. You can get it online.
I
But
think Dole has the license to it now.
it's
But yeah,
just this little
$20
appliance.
little appliance.
Yo Nana.
Yo Nanas. And you have some bananas that have gone bad, right? They get the little brown spots on them, and
Sure.
you throw them out or make banana bread. Well, you can peel them, put them in the freezer. Then you take them out and you run it through this device. Just bananas, nothing else.
Yeah.
You get soft serve. It's phenomenal. It's
Oh,
the best
yeah.
treat ever.
I mean, it's just like you
Actually-
can't tell the difference most of the time. It's just
The
tasty.
Vitamix
and-
does the same thing.
Sure,
Well,
sure.
I would argue
This comes
that-
out in a thing where you can put it in an ice cream cone, though,
A little swirl.
like the soft serve style for sure.
Okay.
Little Dairy Queen.
Yo Nana.
Yep.
Yep, and much more creamy, I would say.
I think you can get it on
compared to the
Amazon or
Vitamix.
something. but
Well, I
yeah.
love the name. Yo
Well,
Nana.
I love that there are so many new alternatives to the food that we used to love and we grew up with. And I always say it's the things that we grew up with that we are kind of cursed with as far as food is concerned. Because, we all love that comfort food, the macaroni and the cheese and the cheese and the cheese and more cheese and more dairy and a lot of dairy. And now we're finding out dairy is not so good for the planet, not so good for people either, unfortunately. It's hard to get away from. And peanut butter, and I think of all the things I loved as a kid that I still kind of love. And you want other things to replace those items. And now we have, not that I was crazy about burgers, but we got the Impossible burger and the unobtainable burger.
Beyond Burger.
Beyond Burger. Yeah, so there are a lot of possibilities out there in that way. And
I would just want to say one quick thing about those burgers. The Impossible Burger, the Beyond Burger, they're very processed. And you have to ask
That's
the
right.
question, their nutritional profile, are they as healthy or healthier than a regular burger? If you take the environment out and you take animal cruelty out, are they better for you nutritionally? And I would say probably not.
Probably not.
And a lot of them are GMO products that are making them, etc. I don't think that it's a good food to get hooked to and think you're being healthy. They definitely have a role. They have a role for people that are transitioning from meat and that sort
They've
of
got to
thing.
be better for you than eating meat, though.
I would argue maybe not, especially the Impossible Burger. They're made from heme. It's actually heme that's engineered from animal heme proteins. So you're essentially eating animal protein, but it's quoted as a vegan
But it's a
burger.
plant-based
and
team, right?
It's not,
I just listened to this interview with the guy who invented it, the researcher, and I had never heard of this heme business, but so that's very interesting to me. But we've been talking earlier that I follow Dr. McDougall, and he says soy isolate is not good for you, and these new products are made with pea isolate, and I didn't know what the heck that is.
Yeah, so pea isolate is another just highly processed plant food, right? Pea isolate's probably not organic.
Oh, it
right?
just
And if you're
sounds so
worried about
good.
that
Peas,
type of thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
well, it's made from peas, right? Sounds like a
right.
possibility.
But a lot of these products that even if, let's say, pea isolate is a very good thing, they're also full of oil, salt, all these other additives that if you look at the ingredient list on some of these substitutes, it's, 50 ingredients or something that you can barely pronounce. That's
And
not good.
natural flavors, which
Right.
could mean anything. It's chemicals. Yeah.
So
We were just going to go try. We were going to go to Burger King today. We
Just to
decided not
see.
to because we've never had the Impossible Burger.
No,
we were
we-
going
we've had the
we're
Beyond
going to do
Burger.
it once.
Yeah,
But
of course.
I never even liked hamburgers. So
I think you should do it and let me know how it is.
I'm not a fan of hamburgers.
But the
anyway.
best food is plant-based and live food, as opposed to processed, packaged,
Whole foods, yeah.
whole, complete foods,
Yeah.
and you get away from packaging that way, which is a real curse on the planet. And so I think that's so important. I want to mention your website. You're both married.
To each other.
To each other, and what are you related to the medical profession in some way?
No, not
Or
really.
health,
Yeah, I used to teach yoga on Oahu. I've taught yoga for about 10 years. Right now I'm building our house, and so that's taking a lot of my
okay.
time, and so I'm kind of taking a break from the yoga teaching.
You're building a house here in Maui?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you've been here for about the same amount of time, for
Yeah.
a year
I'm
and
sure it's a
half.
greenhouse.
Yeah, I hope
It's
so.
going to be off the grid, absolutely,
Yeah,
which
good.
we're very excited about.
Yeah.
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 There are other, aspects of being off the grid, and we talk about driving electric cars, and there are effects from those as well. There are negative effects from everything we do. Let's just figure it that way. So you want to walk softly and.
So anyway, we're really here. We are 24
woods,
minutes here, and we haven't even talked about the 5 things you can do for longevity. We really could.
Exercise, we mentioned that.
We got one
Yeah.
with
Okay.
exercise.
And
Because
diet.
Another,
Diet,
so
yeah.
diet is the other big one. You want to have a very pure diet. So the study that was done, it was not looking at vegan versus vegetarian versus eating everything. It was a diet quality score. So how much of your diet is fruits and vegetables was the biggest factor they looked at. And then they just looked at other things like are you eating processed foods, meats, etc. But you want to be in the top part of that diet score.
So what percentage do you think we should be eating of like vegetables and fruits and actual live whole foods?
So you should be eating a minimum of 7 servings a day of fruits and vegetables. So servings, I know it's a very loose term, but if you eat 7 servings, you're going to be pretty satiated. You know, you will have room for some other stuff, but it will take up a good portion of your meal, etc.
So that's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Most people don't have other meals other than snacks.
Yeah.
Well,
so you can have
Americans eat a lot of snacks.
But snacks can be
An apple,
a
yeah.
celery stick with peanut butter, perhaps, if that still qualifies as good food.
Depends on the peanut butter. Jiffy, not so much.
No. Well, and a lot of, I'm surprised because I go to Down to Earth and Whole Foods. Whole Foods, they're not as strict as Down to Earth. And you look at the peanut butters and you think, oh, peanut butter, yeah, I'll have that. And then you read it and it's got
Palm oil.
Palm oil. It's got sugar. A lot of, why you don't. I don't understand. Peanut butter is perfect the way it is. And some people say, when you get it and it's got the oil on top, you should pour all that oil off and just stir it up. I don't know.
That's what I tell them a lot of the stuff Dr. McDougall says. But Dr. McDougall has a starch-based diet. And I do eat a lot of pasta. But that's processed too, right?
It is processed, and you're not getting foods that are nutrient dense. If you look at pasta, if you look at a loaf of bread, essentially you're really not getting tons of nutrients packed into the same calories, as opposed to if you were to eat something with vegetables or some legumes, like beans or lentils. Those are so nutrient dense. You will get a lot more phytochemicals, and phytochemicals they're a term for a molecule that we have in our food that is very good for you and oftentimes can help with your healthy aging.
But if you eat the way that John McDougall wants you to eat, there might be bread at the end of the line, but you go through and serve up in one of his retreats or different things. And it's just so much food that's starch-based.
Yeah.
The lentils and the rice and the potatoes and everything
Corn.
else, that there's not room on your plate by the time you get to the end. So what are you going to do with the bread? And it fills you up, It really does. So.
Well, what I like about being a vegan is that you can eat a whole lot of food.
That's so true.
A mound of vegetables, and more. Yeah.
And if
it's
you don't
amazing.
have time, you throw it in the Vitamix.
And then she complains one day, I gained a pound.
Okay, so your diet is basically fruits, vegetables, and legumes, and a little bit of nuts and seeds, and what else?
As unprocessed as you can, really.
Yeah.
Honestly, our favorite thing to eat, and we say this a lot, is tacos. We love tacos because basically you're having so many fresh fruits and vegetables. We put beans in there. We make a sauce that has a little bit of nuts and turmeric. And
Well, what about the taco itself, though? Can you get organic tacos?
you can, and you can get pretty low
yeah.
processed taco shells, like Ezekiel, for example. They make a really
Ezekiel.
nice wrap.
Yeah, like their
and there's
corn
no crap in it.
tortillas are really great. It's
We have
sprouted
to
grains.
we have to give a shout out to our friends at Blue Door Bakery. We love their bread.
I love their
They
bread
have
too.
All
Yeah, they
organic.
do a great job.
Oh my gosh! And Bobbie doesn't. She avoids oil, so that's one bread that she can eat.
Although it's hard to find whole wheat or rye Ezekiel bread. I mean, Blue Door bread. I hear they make it, but I've never seen it.
I think it sells out so fast.
Yeah, so we're just ending up
It
eating
does sell
white
out
flour.
fast, yeah.
So anyway, that's your diet is whole foods. That's 2 out of 5.
Yeah. So
And
what
then
else? What can you
running
predict?
around for 4 miles a day? Was it
5 miles a week.
5 miles a week? I bet you do a marathon once in a while. Do you?
I haven't yet.
No?
I've thought about doing actually a triathlon.
A nice one is that Run to the Sun. Do they still do that? The triathlon.
Well, I've
Like
looked
you
at doing
would
the biking to the bike one to the summit of Haleakala.
Yeah, this one is. It's got swimming and then running up a mountain
Right.
and I don't know, shooting at something.
It might be out of my
No,
league.
that's-
I don't know. There's some really fit people that come to Hawaii. So.
Oh my God, they come here just for that, you know,
And then
to run
the
up
Ironmans
side.
on Big Island. And
Oh, yeah.
The ultra marathoners
So
over there.
what do you think about that? I mean, it seems to me that's really overdoing it. I mean, talk about moderation, and that's like that can't be good for your body.
Well, I think a lot of times you think everybody that's training for a marathon or doing these things, they're going out and running a marathon every day, but that's not the case.
No.
They're running just a fraction of it every day. Through the week, maybe they get a marathon in.
Yeah.
Through the whole week, but not in
Right.
one day.
Not in one day.
Yeah.
And so I think that one time that you're doing the marathon, it's a lot on your body.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm glad that I never liked running because I would get a stitch in I just didn't like it.
And as we are aging ourselves, right before your
We are all
very ears
aging,
and
all of
eyes,
us.
yes, some of us look better aging. But my observation from living as long as I have is that people have become more corpulent. In general, they're a lot heavier, way over beyond what I would used to. It was unusual to see people so heavy when I was growing up as a kid. You just didn't see it, and you must have to deal with patients like that more frequently than I would think.
For sure, obesity is an epidemic. It's an epidemic in all the Western countries, largely as a result of dietary choices we've made.
Right.
Of course, it's a complex thing. There's other factors involved, but it's mostly the choices we make when it comes to food and physical exercise. And you are very astute because you brought up one of those 5 things. So Bobby's keeping us on track here, kind of trying to talk about the 5 things, but maintaining a healthy body weight is one of those 5 requirements. If you are overweight or if you're underweight, you can actually age faster.
Oh, okay.
I always feel like even if I have a little extra poundage, it's kind of good because if, say, I get in a car accident and I'm in the hospital, I don't want to get too skinny. That's my excuse, right? That I can have a few extra pounds. But here's a surgeon. Is that right?
That's actually a very astute observation. A few extra pounds is not overweight. And if it's pounds of muscle, you are doing way better. We do know that actually all of us, since the age of 25 on, we lose muscle throughout our life, right? So as we age, we lose muscle, but we typically gain fat. If we could somehow skew that ratio so that we are maintaining our muscle mass and not having the extra fat, then it's going to be much better. If you can imagine just having extra fat tissue, you are carrying that around, so it's stressful on your joints, it's stressful on your organs, it's pro-inflammatory, so it puts your entire body in an inflammatory condition, which is not good either.
I see overweight people very often who have knee problems. They're walking around with canes and walkers even. And I just think it seems so obvious to me. And I know when I was even weightier than I am now, and I'm still a little overweight, I was having knee pains, and I was walking around with a cane. And I lost 20 pounds, I think it was. And
Wow.
And anyway, I no longer have those pains. And so that's an incentive right by itself. I mean, you don't want to be cared for by other people and, have...
So
That's so
you're
true.
saying that you can have a few extra pounds, but it should be muscle.
Well, if you had a choice, you would want your extra pounds to be muscle. You would want muscle mass, for
And
sure.
so say I get in a car accident, I end up in the hospital. What is that typical that you lose a lot of weight when you're in the hospital?
It depends. It depends on your condition, whether you can eat or not, how stressed your body is, etc. One thing we do with our patients in the hospital is we prioritize nutrition. So as much as we possibly can, we really work to get you eating as fast as you can. If you are unable to eat because you're so sick, we give you nutrition either through a tube into your stomach, or even we have IV nutrition. So we see that as very important. So we try to not have any muscle mass or body mass loss while you're in the hospital.
Okay, so I'm just making up excuses then, right? But I mean, that hospital food is so horrible, isn't it?
Is it still
That is,
horrible?
oh man, that's
is there
opening
still
another
Jell-O?
can of worms. Yes,
There is.
we're working
they're
on
still
it.
serving Jell-O. Are they really? Not Jell-O shooters either.
No.
Nothing
fun.
It would be nice to do an entire overhaul of hospital food in our country. In
Yeah.
general, it's not good stuff. I mean, you see patients having, they just had bypass or a heart attack, and they have a burger and fries on their tray, and you're
Right.
thinking, how?
And it was
How
served
is
by
that
the
possible?
hospital.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times the food is provided by a major food producers like McDonald's and so on. I don't know specifically McDonald's, but
Cisco and
Tyson
big,
and all that.
yeah, big food producers, and you can't expect good quality nutrition from something that's made in a factory. As a child, I found that out because I went to the Wrigley Spearmint chewing gum factory, and I was thinking, oh, this is going to be great, free chewing gum. Well, it's not as exciting when you see a huge vat of this gray chewing gum. A vat doesn't, they don't show that in the commercials, and they don't show the slaughter of animals as far as your meat is concerned. We get it nice and packaged, and it's all too wonderful. And I've been seeing people on TV lately who are over 110 years old, and some of them, they'll say, "Oh well, what do if I drink a glass of something every day, a shot of bourbon or whatever it is, and I just think, well, this must be the last of the line. Really, I can't imagine that their children and their children's children are going to be able to thrive with a shot of bourbon every day or whatever it is."
That's so funny you say that. So first off, genes, right? Some people are blessed and they have a gene called the FOXO gene, which is a longevity gene. The most longest lived human being in the world. Do you have any idea how old she was when she died?
118?
122.
22.
Jean Coalmont, she was a French lady, and she smoked until she...
Smoked cigarettes.
There is a picture of her lighting her cigarette off of her 100th birthday cake, right? So you're like, what did she do? And then people would ask her, well, what's your secret? How are you living so long? And, she attributed it to eating 1 kilogram of chocolate a week and port daily, right? So she's drinking port, she's having chocolate, she's smoking, she's doing everything we're saying we're not supposed to do. But I believe she probably had one of those longevity genes. She also was quite active. She rode a bicycle. She lived on the 7th floor of an apartment. She walked up the stairs all the time. She was an active lady, but again, maybe not the best choices.
No,
Okay.
but I think there's a danger in having a diet like that. I mean, and for a great long time, and then cutting it off. I think if you live on something for a good long time, and then suddenly you change your diet radically, and I saw that with myself in just going through the macrobiotics and just suddenly going from what we called straight food back then to a hipper diet, and I went through what we called a cleansing, and I got rid of, in various ways, a lot of stuff in my system that was poisoning me. Evidently, that's how it was explained to me, and
The healing crisis.
so
they
it
call
was a part of the healing was to purge myself of old poisons from my bad habits. So anyway, you were
Okay, so we've got don't be overweight,
Keep us on
Overweight.
task.
eat unprocessed fruits and vegetables, good exercise.
Correct. We've got
two
two
more.
more. Any
What are
guesses?
they?
What's the number one cause of aging in the world?
Stress.
No, stress actually was not studied in this. I wish it was, because there are some other smaller studies showing that things like stress management, a sense of purpose, having community, social networking and all that is very good for aging, but those weren't looked at in this study.
Really? Huh. I always hear all of those. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your environment is so important as far as your comfort,
Yeah.
rest and recreation.
And sleep.
Sleep?
Absolutely.
Sleep.
Is that one of them?
It's not.
Oh.
Unfortunate. So the last two actually are really obvious if you think about it. So the number one cause of aging is tobacco and smoking.
Oh.
Worldwide, people smoke. There are so many carcinogens found in cigarettes. It causes skin aging. It causes a lot of things. That is probably the biggest accelerator of aging that we have in the planet.
Well, we have the Maui grown therapies on the show a lot, and they've convinced me, that we've had the receptors in our brain for cannabinoids, and I figure, well, the CBD really hasn't helped my pain, but I believe in it.
But she doesn't smoke.
Yeah, so CBD you can take in various forms.
Right, that's what I've been doing.
And the interesting thing about that is there's really not that much hard science on it yet, largely because the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, won't fund it because it's against, it's against federal law right now. I think as things change, hopefully we'll get more studies, we'll figure out more about that.
Well, I just stopped smoking because I sing, and I can't keep doing that to my throat, so I do the tinctures. But I know a lot of people get relief from pain and it helps them sleep, but I just use melatonin. So we don't know about the smoking. Okay, so smoking is another...
The smoking that they looked at in this study was smoking tobacco.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
All right, so that's a no-brainer.
But we don't know about smoking other things.
Right, okay. So
So that's number 4, right?
Yeah, so we have one more.
that's
and
also
it's
as obvious
a
as smoking?
choice. It's alcohol.
Drinking alcohol.
Yeah, so moderate alcohol. And moderate alcohol intake, in this study, for the purposes of this, they use 2 drinks or less a day for men, 1 drink a day for women or less.
I'm a teetotaler, and I feel like I'm probably not as healthy as I could be if I had a little bit of alcohol, because I think a little bit is, it's been with mankind ever since we've been here, right? So it must do something for us.
So it depends on which camp you're in. I think everybody would agree that overdoing it on alcohol is a bad thing.
Sure.
So over 2 drinks a day for a man, over 1 for a woman is probably not the healthiest for you.
And let's clarify, when you say a drink, it could be a glass of wine.
Could be a glass of wine, could be
Or-
1 shot of hard liquor, could be 1 beer,
Right.
1 cocktail. That's 1 drink.
People don't equate a can of beer with a glass of wine necessarily. Are they interchangeable?
So serving sizes vary depending on what you're drinking.
Yeah.
And usually standard is going to be a glass of wine has about the same amount of alcohol as a shot of liquor, as a beer, right? So that's kind of what they use. When you drink too much alcohol, obviously it causes aging. It causes changes in your liver and your metabolism and how all of that works.
Do you recommend a little bit, though, a moderate amount?
So that's a good question. And I think it depends on what you are looking at. So for the purposes of aging, yes, they had alcohol in moderation. If you look at other things like breast cancer, for example, there's a study that came out that said there is no amount of alcohol intake that's safe when it comes to breast cancer. Even just a small amount can result in breast cancer. And the reason why is because the alcohol and the toxins in that, they actually go into our breast. They live in our breast and they can wreak havoc throughout our lives.
I know. I have friends that have had breast cancer, and I can't believe they keep drinking wine. Stop it. Right? Once you've had breast cancer, wouldn't you say stop it?
I would recommend that. Absolutely.
Now he gets up in the morning and the first thing he has coffee.
Oh, like
What
everybody in the world.
What about coffee? I mean, there's been a lot of controversy back and forth about the benefits and the dangers, and if there
I
are
honestly
any.
don't think that there is much controversy about it. The large epidemiological studies show coffee is okay.
Yeah,
There are some populations that shouldn't be drinking coffee. So people that have AFib or an irregular heartbeat, or they're prone to having cardiac issues, maybe coffee's not the best thing because it can trigger that.
Did you hear that?
So,
No.
so that could be an issue. People that have issues with esophagitis or heartburn or GERD, coffee may not be the best thing. But in general, most of the studies show coffee intake is associated with lower inflammation levels, longer health span. It's a good thing.
More energy in the morning.
He seems to be all right.
Coffee does have phytochemicals in it, so it is a good thing to work in.
Well, but it depends on the kind of coffee again. I mean, you're talking about Folgers compared to a good cup of organic coffee.
Oh,
which
that's my favorite is the Kona
The
medium
organic
roast,
Kona?
yeah, organic, yeah.
So, what are the things people shouldn't drink coffee if they have AFib? What else?
AFib, if you have esophagitis or heartburn, like GERD, probably not a good idea.
What, acid reflux is
Same.
what a lot
All
of
that.
people have.
Yep.
Acid reflux.
Yeah, so coffee's
many.
very acidic, and it can worsen your acid reflux.
I see. And those are the only things that you should worry about?
Those are the big things. I mean, I'm sure there's probably more.
I mean, because
can't
everybody
think of.
that I know drinks coffee. Not me, but yeah.
But like a cup a day, right? So generally I do like 1 cup. We split like a little like brew thing of it, and you know, she gets her half, I get my half, and it's done for the day.
So how do you brew your coffee? Do you French press?
You know, I used to
many
French
ways.
press. That used to be my thing, and
Yeah.
now we're using this. What's
The
it called?
Chemex.
Like a Chemex, but it has
Over.
has a metal stainless steel metal filter that we use. Chemex usually have a paper filter, so we
Yeah,
just reuse
yeah.
this metal stainless steel and grind the coffee up, put it in there, and pour hot water over it. So it's kind of a pour over style coffee.
Some people use the coffee grounds for their gardening too.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
The
do
one
you
thing-
guys do gardening too?
Oh,
we
yeah.
do, yeah.
Yeah?
And we
Because
use the
that's
grounds in the
really good
in
for
the
your
garden as
health,
well.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah, to get down in the dirt and work in the soil and plant things that grow.
I don't know if you know about this book. The guy that wrote The Naked Ape, Desmond Morris, he wrote a book on the ages of man, and he went from 0 to 100, what's typical and what's outstanding at each age. And when he got to 100, gardening was what people who are 100 had in common.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd tell you.
That's
since
very
you're into-
interesting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we live on the 3rd floor of a condo, but
That is no excuse.
we don't.
I've gardened in my condo before.
Very windy
No,
where
it's so
we live.
windy. Anything we planted would just be gone the next day. But we don't have an elevator, so we're
that's great.
constantly going up and downstairs all day long.
And we have a 2-floor condo. so-
Yeah, so we're going up and down those stairs too. So I think that's a built-in exercise device
sure.
in a way.
You know, we donate to tree planting organizations because that's one of the best things you can do for the environment. Stop eating animals, start planting trees, stop using so much fuel. Those are the high things. So, you know, we can't all do everything, right? So we don't have that much more time, and we've been talking more than you have, I think. What do you want people to know about your talk tonight? Because not everybody that listens to this show is going to be able to go to your talk tonight. So what would you want the audience to know?
Well, I want the audience to know that choices that we make can impact how we age, how fast we age, how slow we age, etc. Many things we can do that we think are little, like exercise, like choosing the healthy option at dinner, can really be huge when it comes to overall longevity. Being overweight, smoking, excessive alcohol use they're huge threats, and they do make you age faster. So if we can try to get away from those, that is huge.
What do you feel about supplements and vitamins?
Oh yeah, I was going to ask about that.
That's a good question. So when you are plant-based, and actually I would argue this for every human being on the planet, probably should think about supplementing with B12. And the reason why is even if you are eating animal products, there's just not as much B12 as there used to be. It's a good thing, and the consequences of being B12 deficient are huge. They're really serious. So supplementing with that, yes. The other big one that I do recommend is vitamin D, and not just to blanket blindly supplement, but test. Get a test. You can measure your vitamin D levels. And if you are low, you can go ahead and you can take some vitamin D and recheck it. But if you're normal, then you're fine. Here in Hawaii, we think we can get our vitamin D from the sun and we're outside. But in reality, a lot of people in Hawaii are vitamin D deficient.
My doctor said that I was vitamin D deficient. They only recently started testing me. And I said, look. And she insisted. So next year I went back and she said, well, you must have been taking the supplements. And I said, no, I stopped using sunscreen. And my tests were normal again.
Yeah.
Just that I tell you.
And that's a whole discussion all by itself. The
Right.
sunscreen issues here in Hawaii
huge.
and, the whitening of the coral and
So
that whole thing. So
what about, you have such beautiful skin. Do you put things on your skin to make you look that good?
Oh man, I was looking at the budget that I've spent on skincare stuff. It's not good. But I do take care of my skin, and I do try to stay out of the sun, especially during peak hours. If I am out there, I will use sunblock. I use a non-nano zinc sunblock. It's tough with sunblock.
I think it depends on where you're from, your ethnicity. Mm-hmm. Because I think I can get away with not using sunscreen, but you're
you also are
blonde.
very tan. You have a good base tan.
Uh-huh.
So you kind of have a natural sunscreen built in.
Uh-huh.
I look a little whiter, so I tend to be lucky and tan well, but I have to be careful because burning can happen quick.
Are there
you use emollients and various products to keep your skin looking so good? Is that right?
Well, if I tell you my secret, I might have to kill you.
What about you? Do you
Joke.
use any products?
I'm outside every day. I could probably put a little bit more on my skin.
But you don't really.
But
do
I
you?
don't use sunscreen. I wear a hat.
Yeah, this is a guy.
But I do put. I like olive oil because it's a little heavier.
Oh, yeah, really?
So I'll let that soak in overnight. I'll put that on my skin. But that's kind of the extent of it.
I would say if you had to pick one thing to put on your skin to prevent wrinkling or slow it down to make you look young, it would be vitamin C. So you can buy vitamin C tinctures, facial brighteners, etc., and you put it directly, just a couple drops right on your face, and it will help. It's antioxidant. They call vitamin C the little black dress of skincare. Like, it's just that cute little thing, and it's probably the best thing that you could do.
not
Really?
in a lotion or a cream, but a tincture?
Well, you can buy, it's like a serum. You can buy a vitamin C serum, and it's usually mixed with something else, like vitamin E or something fatty, or ferulic acid, just so that it can kind of spread on your face nice. And yeah, I think it's a lot more concentrated than a lotion that has some vitamin C in it.
Vitamin C serum.
I'll
I'm
show you what
writing
I
this
use.
down.
Yeah, write that down.
It's too late
Absolutely.
for me, I know, but
It's never too late.
I never go out in the sun, maybe obviously, because I burned so badly in my life when I was growing up. I had horrible burns, and then it was poison ivy and poison oak, living in California, and it was always something. So I came here, and I just recently actually went to the dermatologist because I have these little things, and and she said, "Oh, you've got wonderful skin." I say, "Yeah, what about those?" "Oh, those are barnacles." I said, "What the heck? Barnacles? Really? Are they like clams or something? I mean, and well, how do you get rid of them? You burn them off." It just all sounded so hideous, but it's not a danger, evidently. It's just something that we have to deal with as we get older, like those floaty things in our eyes.
Well,
I'm mad
barnacles
about-
on a ship just make you go slower. So
that's good. That
anyway.
tells you to slow down.
Well, but it was good to know that because the first thing I think of, if I have a pain or a little something here and there or whatever, cancer. It's got to be cancer. I just know it. And I've had that stupid thought so many times, and then I go to the doctor, that's nothing. So anyway, so I don't go out in the sun, so I should maybe use some of this vitamin C stuff.
So, another thing is people our age, they've got so many aches and pains and everything. Bill has never been athletic, so he doesn't have all these injuries from when he was younger. And so he's healthy. And, now they're finding out, no, football is not a good thing to have your kid do. And we're just learning so many things like that. And do you have any advice to keep your brain working good?
Your brain, well, you always want to be active as far as you can with that. You want to try to learn something new, keep challenging it. Maybe try to learn a new language when you're in your 90s. That would be a good thing.
Yeah.
Always working on social connections, just continually working to not be isolated would be the biggest, most important thing.
We're talking with Dr. Van Dyken, MD. I'd mention your first name again, but I'm sorry.
It's Ermina.
Ermina. Anyway, tonight at the Cameron Center, 7 o'clock, it's a free talk about improving health span tools to slow down aging. We've been talking about some of those tools on the show, and we're so grateful to have you both on the show. Your husband, you guys are doing...
Russell.
Russell. And Out of the Doldrums is your website. Just go Out of the Doldrums, Google it, and you'll find various.
How do you spell doldrums?
Doldrums.
Yeah.
Do you know what the doldrums are?
Well, it's someplace in the Pacific. You can,
But not just in
it's
the
a little
Pacific.
some little islands.
Let them tell you.
Well, we've only got 1 minute.
It's the Intertropical Convergence Zone. So
Oh.
it's this area between the equator and the northern hemisphere where there is no wind, the doldrums. So
Oh,
you hear
that's
sailors
right.
being stuck in the doldrums and they
Yeah.
have no direction, no purpose, no sense. So we're sailors, so we love the term sailing out of the doldrums. We have a purpose, an intent.
Wait, you're sailors?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
we
well,
didn't
let's
even get to
talk about that now.
With our 1 minute.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but so if you're out of the doldrums, you have wind at your back, wind in your sails, and you have a clear direction moving forward.
There you go. And the talk tonight is free at 95 Mahalani Street, the Cameron Center. Thanks to the Vegetarian Society. And Down to Earth will be providing a bit of food as well.
Maui Toyota, thank you.
And thank you all for watching and listening and being a part of Off the Record. I'm Bill Best. Aloha.
Aloha.
We have.
Aloha, this is Bill Best. My show Off the Record is brought to you by Maui Toyota.
Hey, we just got done doing an interview with Bill and Bobbie. It was so much fun. It was a really good time. Thanks for entertaining us.
It was
How
good.
did we get time?
Yeah, we got a lot out.
could have talked more about
About everything.
Sure.
Yeah.